Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching twist in your stomach when you send a text, pour a piece of yourself into it, and then silence? The agonizing wait. The dread as you see those two blue ticks, marking it as seen, yet no reply ever comes. You scroll back, rereading your words, dissecting every sentence, every emoji. Did I say too much? Too little? Was I too eager? Not eager enough. Your mind races, conjuring 1,000 scenarios, each one a fresh stab of doubt. You feel the magnetic pull to double text, to call, to demand an explanation, to just know what happened. You convince yourself that if you just try a little harder, if you just reach out one more time, you can fix it. You can bridge that silent chasm. But deep down, a colder, harder truth whispers, "Am I not enough?" This isn't just about a missed message, fellas. This is about a primal fear, the fear of being overlooked, of being disposable, of having your very existence dismissed by the one person whose attention you crave. Every man has walked this lonely road, felt this invisible pressure. That moment when her silence feels louder than any argument, more piercing than any harsh word. It forces you to question everything, your charm, your confidence, your very worth. And it's precisely in that vulnerable moment, on the precipice of emotional chaos, that most men make the biggest mistake of their lives. They chase, they beg, they lose themselves trying to regain what they mistakenly believe they've lost, her attention. But what if I told you that her silence isn't a weapon aimed at your heart, but a mirror reflecting your own hidden power? What if this moment of doubt is actually the universe handing you the keys to unlock a deeper, more profound self-mastery? This isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. It's about understanding the silent language of power dynamics and reclaiming your emotional sovereignty. Because when she ignores you, she's not merely testing your patience. She's testing your self-control, your inner equilibrium. She's watching to see if your emotions will betray you, if you'll collapse under the weight of uncertainty, if you'll expose the raw, desperate need beneath the surface. She isn't listening to your words. She's reading your energy. And in this video, we're going to dive deep into the ancient wisdom of Stoicism and modern male psychology to reveal exactly how to transform her silence from a source of anxiety into your greatest source of power. You'll learn how to make her regret taking you for granted, how to let her feel the absence she thought she could handle, and how to become a man so grounded, so self-possessed, that her silence no longer shakes your world, but rather shatters hers. Get ready to flip the script, gentlemen, because when you stop chasing, the balance of power shifts, and that's when she starts to wonder, not why you disappeared, but how she ever became so easy to forget. Let's unlock this power together. Number 1, her silence, the ultimate test. Let's dissect this. When a woman chooses silence, it's rarely about the message you send, but rather the message she intends to send without a single word. Silence is not merely an absence of noise. It's one of the most potent forms of communication in a woman's arsenal. It's a deliberate act, a strategic pause designed to elicit a reaction, to measure the depth of your emotional fortitude. She isn't doing nothing when she ignores you. She's saying something very clearly. I want to see what kind of man you are when I withdraw my attention. This is the true test, not of her attraction, but of your inherent power. Most men tragically misunderstand this dynamic. They perceive ignoring as rejection, a definitive end, but often it's a measurement. She's assessing your discipline, your patience, your self-worth. She's watching to see if you can remain calm under pressure or if you'll buckle under the weight of uncertainty. Because here's an undeniable truth. A woman doesn't want a man who constantly needs reassurance every time things go quiet. She desires a man who remains grounded, a solid anchor in the stillness. Women intuitively use silence to probe your emotional maturity. If you overreact, if you double text, if you spiral into panic and barrage her with questions like, "Are you mad?" She instantly perceives a shift in energy. She sees that you were never truly leading the connection. She was. Your frantic pursuit confirms her suspicion that your emotional state is dependent on her. But what happens if you choose silence? Not out of spite or pride, but out of a deep, unshakable composure? The dynamic flips entirely. Now, she begins to feel uncertainty. She starts to wonder if her silence went unnoticed, or if it actually cost her access to your attention. And this is where the profound psychology kicks in. When she realizes you're not chasing, her brain enters a fascinating phase known as cognitive dissonance. It's that jarring mental tug-of-war between her ego and her emotions. Her ego, conditioned by countless prior interactions, screams, "He should be trying harder. He should be begging for my attention." But her emotions, confronted with your unexpected stillness, whisper, "Why isn't he? Why isn't he reacting like all the others?" This confusion, this internal conflict, creates curiosity. And gentlemen, curiosity is the fertile ground from which attraction blossoms. She'll find herself checking your social media stories, rereading old messages, trying to decode your unexpected silence. The power has decisively shifted, not because you resorted to games, but because you finally stopped playing hers. The raw truth is, her ignoring you is rarely about indifference. It's about control. She's testing whether she can still influence your mood, your day, your focus. If your energy drops, if you crumble, she wins. If you remain composed, still, and centered, she starts to question her own influence. The Stoic man grasps this intricate dance. He doesn't take her silence personally. He doesn't argue. He doesn't explain. He doesn't chase. He simply steps back, allowing his silence to speak for him. Because silence, when wielded with unwavering confidence, always conveys the same powerful message. You cannot control a man who has mastered himself. And for her, that realization is both profoundly unsettling and utterly unforgettable. Once she sees that her silence no longer has the power to shake you, she begins to feel something she didn't anticipate: respect. And that, gentlemen, is when the game truly begins to change. Number 2, chasing kills attraction. When a woman begins to pull away, every primal instinct within a man screams for action. You feel an overwhelming urge to call, to text, to explain, to remind her of the connection you shared, the moments you built. You rationalize it as an act of love, of care, of fighting for what's yours. But deep beneath that veneer of noble intention lies something far more potent and insidious: fear. The gnawing fear of losing her attention, the dread of being forgotten, the existential terror of not being enough. That fear is a powerful current, capable of dragging even the strongest men into behaviors that are utterly alien to their own dignity. And that, precisely, is why chasing her kills attraction. Because in that moment of desperate pursuit, she no longer sees the man she was initially drawn to, the confident, intriguing, self-possessed individual. Instead, she sees a man attempting to convince her of his worth. Attraction, true attraction, doesn't reside in relentless pursuit. It thrives in authentic presence. A woman doesn't fall for the man who desperately needs her validation to feel complete. She falls for the man who carries himself with an inherent wholeness, a quiet confidence that emanates from within, independent of her presence. When you chase, you fundamentally disrupt the balance of power. You project your energy outward, relentlessly trying to make her see your value. But genuine value never needs to explain itself. It is simply felt. The more you chase, the more predictable you become. And predictability, like a slow-acting poison, systematically murders mystery. Mystery is the spark that ignites the female imagination, the engine that drives her curiosity, her analysis, her desire. But when you inadvertently reveal that her attention defines your happiness, you extinguish that curiosity. She stops perceiving you as the calm, grounded man who initially captured her interest and starts to see someone emotionally dependent on her reactions, her validation. Independence, no matter how romantic or intense it might feel in your own mind, can never, ever build respect. You must grasp this fundamental truth. Chasing a woman who is actively pulling away doesn't bring her closer. On the contrary, it only serves to confirm her unconscious suspicion that you will never truly let her go. And once she possesses that certainty, she loses something far more crucial than mere interest. She loses admiration. Women are not drawn to eloquent words or grand gestures alone. They are drawn to energy. They gravitate towards the man who feels no compulsion to prove, explain, or perform to be seen. The man who, when confronted with silence, doesn't crumble, doesn't panic. He pauses. He observes. He calmly redirects his focus toward his purpose, his mission. And that pause, that deliberate stillness, inflicts far more damage to her ego than any argument or plea ever could. When she pulls away and you remain calm, unwavering in your resolve, she begins to feel something unexpected, distance. Not merely physical distance, but a profound energetic distance. It's the kind of distance that makes her truly feel the absence of your attention, your consistent effort, your warmth. At first, her pride might compel her to act as if she doesn't care, a surface reaction of someone desperately trying to convince herself of a lie. But deep down, beneath the layers of bravado, she feels the difference. And that difference begins to grow within her. It subtly transforms from pride into confusion, from confusion into curiosity, and from curiosity into an undeniable longing. That is the natural, inevitable consequence of deliberate silence from a man who once gave everything. The Stoic man does not chase because he understands that chasing never restores respect. It only deepens the existing imbalance. You cannot convince someone to value what they have already decided to take for granted. But you can, through your unwavering stillness, remind them that their absence does not break you. It frees you. And that potent realization always hits harder, resonates deeper than any message you could ever send. The moment you cease chasing, she begins to see you again. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally became scarce. And scarcity, to the discerning feminine mind, is undeniably irresistible. Number 3, silent power. Master your emotions. Silence is not an empty void. It is a canvas rich with information. It reveals everything she needs to know about your inner strength, your unwavering discipline, and the profound depth of your emotional control. When a woman ignores you, what she is truly observing is not merely your reaction to her silence, but your fundamental relationship with your own emotions. Most men, confronted with this pressure, crumble. They send that second message. They try desperately to ignite a conversation. They fill the perceived void with nervous, rambling words, because silence makes them profoundly uncomfortable. But that very discomfort, gentlemen, is precisely where your true power resides. When you can remain calm, unbothered, and utterly grounded in your being while being ignored, you are sending the loudest, most impactful message possible. My peace is not negotiable. This level of emotional control doesn't just confuse her, it intrigues her. It arrests her attention because it stands in stark contrast to the vast majority of men. Most men chase. Most men react. Most men allow their turbulent emotions to dictate their every behavior. The rare man who remains still, who steadfastly refuses to hand his inherent power over to her silence, becomes unforgettable. Women are intensely intuitive creatures. They possess an innate ability to sense your emotional energy without the need for a single spoken word. When you choose stillness, she can feel that profound calm. It unsettles her precisely because she expected you to react, to fight, to chase. She anticipated you proving your care through desperation, demonstrating your love through panic. When you defy these expectations, the entire dynamic is inverted. You have, in that moment, become unpredictable. And unpredictability, for the feminine mind, breeds an insatiable curiosity. That curiosity begins as a subtle whisper in her mind. Why isn't he reaching out? Has he truly moved on? Did I actually lose him? That whisper gradually transforms into persistent thoughts. Those thoughts morph into insistent questions, and those questions begin to exert a magnetic pull, subtly drawing her back towards you. She may not reach out immediately, but she starts to feel something she can't quite define, a quiet, insistent longing for the attention she once so carelessly took for granted. Emotional control is the bedrock of authentic masculine power. It is the defining characteristic that separates a man who merely reacts from a man who confidently leads. When you maintain your composure amidst the chaos, you transition from being emotionally dependent to emotionally dominant. She can no longer read you like an open book. She cannot predict your next move, your next action. And that uncertainty, that compelling mystery, reignites her attraction because it reawakens the very emotional tension that existed when she first desired you. You become the quiet storm she cannot control, the enigmatic energy she cannot definitively define. And that, gentlemen, is the energy women instinctively chase. They don't fall for men who constantly explain themselves. They fall for men whose silence forces them to think. But here's the deeper, more profound truth. This silence is not about manipulation. It is about the sacred act of reclaiming your inner peace. It is about your resolute refusal to grant emotional power to someone who has disrespected your attention. It is choosing not to react, not because you don't care, but because you have learned, through hard-won experience, that reacting never truly changes anything. It only serves to expose your underlying weakness. The Stoic man understands that silence possesses a profound gravity. It draws people in. It makes your presence felt powerfully, even when you are physically absent. Every single time you resist that primal urge to respond, you build a quiet, unshakable strength that no one can ever strip away from you. And over time, that formidable strength becomes your very identity, calm, centered, unshakable. In that profound stillness, you cease trying to convey your worth to her with mere words, because your silence is communicating it far more effectively than you ever could. And when she finally realizes that you are no longer waiting for her, that you have made a conscious, profound peace with her distance, that is when she truly feels the immense weight of her own decision. Not because you punished her, but because you finally mastered yourself. Number 4, the echo of your absence. When you finally stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop trying to fix what she broke, something shifts within her. At first, she'll pretend not to notice. She'll scroll, half expecting your name to light up her screen. She'll tell herself she's free, the silence is peaceful, she doesn't care. But deep down, something vital feels missing. Not you, at first, but the feeling of being desired. That warmth of knowing you were always there, waiting, investing your energy. When that disappears, it leaves a void. And that void is what makes her feel your absence. You don't need cryptic stories or online theatrics. Real power doesn't announce itself, it's felt. You make her feel your absence by no longer feeding her ego. When you stop validating her through your effort, her mind replays moments she felt seen, admired, wanted. The contrast between your past attention and your current stillness becomes an emotional mirror she can't escape. That's when regret begins. Not because you vanished, but because she realizes what she lost wasn't just your attention, it was your energy. Every time her phone is silent, every time she posts and you don't react, every time she subtly tries to pull your attention and you remain still, the balance flips. You're no longer waiting. She's wondering what you're thinking, where you went, why she feels replaceable. It's not punishment, it's reflection. You've given her back her silence, but with calm, not bitterness. Silence born from peace has gravity. It pulls her inward, making her overthink. Silence from anger only pushes away. The moment she feels your detachment, she compares the before and after energy. Before, available, attentive. Now, silent, steady, focused elsewhere. That contrast burns in her mind. She might tell herself she's fine, but her subconscious knows better. What the mind ignores, the body still feels. The absence of your attention echoes like a sound she didn't notice until it stopped. It's not your voice she misses. It's the way your energy made her feel valuable. The Stoic man doesn't try to make her jealous or manipulate her. He lets time and absence speak. When you master stillness, the woman who ignored you begins to chase her own memories of you. That's the real power. When your presence is missed without effort on your part, it's not revenge, it's restoration. She's not regretting what she did. She's regretting who she lost. A man who never begged for love, but knew his silence would one day remind her what peace felt like. And when that realization hits, when she feels her actions cost her access to something rare, your calm, consistency, care, she'll understand what words never could. Ignoring you was never the win she thought it was. It was the beginning of her own emptiness. Number 5. Detachment, your hidden strength. Detachment isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. It's the quiet decision that your peace is too valuable to sell for temporary attention. Most men misunderstand detachment, thinking it means shutting off emotions. But real detachment is the opposite, feeling everything, yet choosing discipline over desperation. It's wanting her, but refusing to chase. It's seeing her pull away and resisting the urge to prove your worth. It's that moment you stop reacting to her silence and start responding to your own standards. Detachment shifts the focus from her to yourself. It's no longer about what she thinks of you. It's about what you think of you. And that's when everything changes. When you detach, you stop living in emotional debt. You stop withdrawing from your self-respect for comfort. You start investing in your purpose, your routine, your peace. You don't ghost to hurt her. You go quiet to heal yourself. You redirect the energy you spent fixing her silence into building your presence, your strength, your calm. You hit the gym, not to prove you've moved on, but because every rep reminds you of your control. You work in silence, move in patience, speak less, not from anger, but from alignment. You're no longer the man waiting for her. You're the man returning to himself. That's the difference between reaction and power. Reaction is emotion trying to escape. Power is emotion contained. Mastering detachment means you stop chasing closure. You don't need her to explain her reasons. You understand people's actions reflect their capacity, not your value. Her silence becomes her answer. Your silence becomes your boundary. That's masculine equilibrium, calm in chaos. Not because you feel nothing, but because you manage everything. Here's what most men miss. Detachment amplifies attraction. When a woman feels you're no longer emotionally dependent on her validation, her curiosity reawakens. She feels the void of your energy, not as rejection, but as respect. You're no longer an option waiting for attention. You've become a standard. That shift is magnetic. Women aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to presence. The man who moves slowly, speaks less, radiates calm, sends a message words can't deliver. I am in control of myself, and that's why no one else can control me. The Stoic man uses detachment as a mirror, not a weapon. He doesn't manipulate with silence. He reflects strength. He doesn't run from emotion. He rises above it. That's what makes him powerful. Detachment gives back everything chasing took from you. Your mystery, your confidence, your peace. When she finally sees she no longer has access to your emotions, only the memory, that's when she feels powerless. Because when you stop chasing her, she starts chasing herself. The balance of power shifts permanently in your favor. Not because you controlled her, but because you finally controlled yourself. Number 6. Respect reborn, silent evolution. Respect isn't rebuilt by talking or proving. It's reborn through evolution. A woman doesn't start respecting you because you told her to. She respects you when she feels a new energy, something she can't control, something she once took for granted but now recognizes as rare. This recognition comes when you disappear, not to punish, but to evolve. That's the essence of rebuilding respect, transformation in silence. You don't announce it, you embody it. You don't say you've changed. You become the man who no longer needs her validation to feel valuable. When you go quiet and focus on yourself, something powerful happens. You see how much energy you wasted trying to keep someone interested instead of keeping yourself aligned. You see how often you explained your worth to those who never earned it. You understand your peace was always your responsibility, not her reward. This awareness changes how you move. You stop reacting to emotion and start responding to reality. You don't overextend, don't overexplain. You simply exist in control. And that energy speaks louder than anything you could say. Women feel energy before they see results. When your tone changes, calm, patient, grounded, she feels it. When you stop chasing her validation and start chasing your mission, she feels it. When you stop reacting to her silence and start investing in your presence, she feels that shift. That's what rebuilds respect, because when she realizes her opinion no longer defines your direction, she looks at you differently. Not as someone trying to win her back, but as someone who doesn't need to. Respect begins not when you convince her, but when you become too focused to notice her doubt. Rebuilding respect is not changing for her, it's returning to yourself. The man she admired initially wasn't desperate. He was detached, mysterious, focused. He attracted, he didn't chase. That energy drew her in. Your calm certainty, your silence that demanded attention, your balance between care and control. Somewhere, you traded that energy for approval, and that's when she lost respect. But when she sees you've reclaimed it, when she feels your stillness again, something shifts. Her pride fights it, but her intuition can't deny it. She remembers why she was drawn to you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were peaceful. The Stoic man never begs for respect. He commands it through alignment. His actions are quiet, deliberate. He speaks less because his results speak for him. His peace proves he's moved on. That's the art of rebuilding respect, through evolution, not effort. Nothing earns admiration faster than a man who disappeared into discipline and came back unrecognizable. When she sees that version of you, calm, confident, untouchable, she doesn't just regret losing you, she respects you again. Number 7. When she regrets her silence. There always comes a moment, quiet and unexpected, when she realizes what she's truly done. It doesn't happen when she's busy pretending or posting for jealousy. It happens later, when the noise fades, when her pride quiets, and her thoughts catch up. That's when it hits her. Not the loss of a man she ignored, but the loss of the peace she once felt in your presence. Regret doesn't strike when you chase, it strikes when you stop. Your silence becomes a mirror, showing her everything she didn't appreciate until it was gone. At first, she won't admit it. She'll rationalize, telling herself you were too serious, too calm, too distant. But deep down, she knows the truth. She ignored the one man who didn't just want her attention, he deserved it. Every woman remembers the man who didn't beg, who didn't fall apart, who made her feel safe without trying to impress. When she realizes you were that man, and she let ego replace gratitude, regret becomes inevitable. And the irony, it's not your messages she misses. It's your energy, the way you listened, your patience, how you made her feel seen without needing to prove anything. That kind of presence can't be replaced. Once it's gone, everything else feels hollow. She'll check your page again. She'll notice you're calm. Your silence will sound different. Not bitter, not angry, but peaceful. And that peace will sting her more than any argument. because it tells her you've accepted what she couldn't control. And that acceptance is power. She expected you to react, fight, chase. But you didn't. You walked away like a man who knows distance means dignity, not defeat. That calmness makes her question herself in ways your words never could. It's not that she falls back in love, but she finally sees the contrast. She compares your quiet strength to the noise of other men who chase, flatter, compete. And she realizes how rare your stillness was. You stood out not because you were perfect, but because you were patient. Patience, in a world obsessed with attention, is a mystery she can't forget. That's when regret turns into reflection, and reflection into longing. Not always for another chance, but for the feeling you gave her, the stability she ignored and now craves. The Stoic man never tries to make her regret. He just lives in a way that reminds her what peace feels like. And she'll remember that peace every time she meets chaos disguised as excitement. That's the true price of ignoring a man who's mastered himself. Not that he leaves, but that his silence follows her everywhere, quietly reminding her what she lost when she took him for granted. And that realization, the one she'll never admit out loud, is the deepest regret there is. At the end of it all, this lesson isn't about her. It's about you. Not what she said, what she did, or why she pulled away. It's about what that silence forced you to face within yourself. Every man, at some point, meets a woman who awakens his deepest insecurities, who, through pain, teaches him what self-control truly means. When that happens, you have two choices: chase her and lose yourself, or lose her and finally find yourself. The Stoic man always chooses the latter. He understands that rejection isn't humiliation, it's refinement. It burns away everything false, weak, impulsive, until only discipline remains. When she ignored you, it wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your transformation. You learned to sit in silence without losing your sanity. You learned an unanswered text doesn't define your worth. You learned love, no matter how passionate, should never make you beg. Most men never reach that point. They spend their lives trying to fix, chase, prove. But the man who's walked through emotional fire and stayed calm, that man becomes untouchable. He's learned his peace is his power. And peace, once earned, becomes priceless. The Stoic man's final lesson is simple. Never trade your self-respect for connection. Never let the desire to be seen make you forget your value. Love deeply, yes, but never at the expense of your identity. Give your presence, not your dependence. Let your energy be felt, not wasted. When a woman pulls away, you don't fight for her attention. You let her experience your absence. Because the absence of a disciplined man carries more weight than the attention of 100 desperate ones. Your silence becomes your signature. It tells the world you're a man who chooses clarity over chaos, composure over impulse, and purpose over validation. And here's the beauty of it all. Once you master that lesson, you stop fearing loss entirely. You no longer beg to stay in anyone's life. You understand people are either aligned with your peace or distractions from it. You stop seeking closure because you are the closure. You stop demanding loyalty because you attract it naturally through your consistency. You stop begging for love because you've realized you are already enough, with or without it. That's real power. Not arrogance, not coldness, but inner balance. The kind that can't be shaken by silence, distance, or rejection. So when she ignores you again, and someday, someone will, don't flinch. Don't chase. Don't explain. Just remember what you've become. A man who no longer needs to be heard to make an impact. A man whose silence now speaks louder than his words ever could. That's the man she'll never forget. Not because he stayed, but because he left with dignity. Because in the end, her silence tested your emotions, but your silence revealed your evolution. And that is the price of ignoring a Stoic man. If you found value in these insights, Make sure to subscribe to Stoic 95 and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on more transformative wisdom. Until next time, stay disciplined.